My name is Joe Imbriano, and I'm a Fullerton resident for over 20 years, and I'm a licensed insurance agent and been with the same firm, representing Mercury Insurance, for over 22 years. The real involvement that I've had in this community has been activism, influencing councils and school boards on issues of grave concern and serious relevance to the community. My interests have always been to really be in a hard-hitting capacity. That's where I've always felt led and called to serve. It's a really neat community, and it has a lot of opportunity for raising a family in terms of educational opportunities. It also has a lot of opportunity in terms of nightlife, restaurants, parks, access to trails. I mean, we've got access to these wonderful parks, and Coyote Hills. I lived next to Robert Ward Preserve for a number of years, so it's got a lot to offer. I think the biggest problem facing this community has been a lack of honesty, transparency, and integrity in its government, and I believe that has spanned for decades. The condition of our infrastructure is indicative of the corruptness of our city officials for decades. With a community with such potential, it's so tragic that it's been so severely mismanaged for so long. And you see the same names on the signs, on the light poles every time an election comes up. And it behooves me as to why we continue to keep putting people in that are either those people are endorsed by or connected to those people. That's the definition of insanity, is when you expect a different result from doing the same thing. So, Joe Imbriano is a grassroots activist, and as you will see, my campaign donors will be individuals. They will not be corporations. They will not be political action committees. They will not be the Democratic Party. They will not be the Republican Party. They will not be builders. They will not be telecom lobbyist groups or anything of the sort. My supporters will be people like you and I, Mr. Latour, people that really care about the community. The City Council is a governing body that controls a municipal corporation's daily operations in terms of being the line item veto or the green light on projects and financial dissemination. It is our duty to hear the concerns. It is our duty to listen to the concerns. It is our duty to put the residents' concerns above these special interests, such as the public employee unions, such as the developers, such as the political parties that have hamstringed the city government for decades. I feel that it's better for the entire community to elect all of its representatives. But at the same time, when you look at the makeup of the council over the past several decades, and when you see that the majority of the city council has lived north of Chapman, and the demographic of that council has never really matched the demographic of the community, and it makes you wonder whether maybe its time has come to have these district elections. I find it rather odd, if not disturbing, that the City Council actually had the audacity, if not the gall, to change the zoning of that property from oil and gas to residential, in spite of the will of the residents and the voters. I mean, I think it was close to 63% that wanted that preserved. So I really think they committed high treason against the taxpayers by rezoning that property residential. And then, to add insult to injury, we had people like Jan Flory and Doug Chafee turn their backs on the will of the people and vote for that development plan. And we are out of land here, and people need a place. People need a respite. People need an escape from this concrete jungle. And quite frankly, that's probably the last place left for a long ways around. It's city-owned property. It's sitting idle for, what, a decade now, in the hands of, I believe, Mr. Leyland Wilson. And what do we have to show for all of this money that's being poured into this white elephant? Absolutely nothing but maybe a parking lot that we can use for functions at some time. So my position on the Fox is that we need to disband who is holding it, the entity that's holding it hostage, or get it out of the clutches of this group, and get that thing R&R'd real fast, and let's get some entertainment venues in there. So it's being held hostage, and I propose to liberate it for the benefit of the community. You know, affordable housing is available, it's just not available here. Is it the city's duty to provide it? I think the more the city tries to get involved in providing affordable housing, the more they screw it up. The more they try to give us affordable housing, the more they gobble up businesses that are trying to provide jobs for people to afford to live here. Housing is something that needs to be left alone, and the private sector does a great job of building housing units where it deems that they're necessary. Market conditions will always control the construction. When you get the government involved in subsidizing things, you end up creating a far bigger problem than you started with. With respect to how it treats its homeless, it treats the homeless just like any other city, like trash. Sweeps them up and pushes them out of the way, runs them off to a different city, cites them, arrests them, bulldozes their encampments. And what is that solving? The churches in this community have completely abdicated their biblical responsibility and have become corporations, have become real estate holding companies, have become mutual fund piles. There are hundreds of churches in Fullerton. They don't pay any taxes. There's a reason they're tax exempt, because they're charities. And charities exist for the purpose of the public good and for taking care of those that can't take care of themselves. So the burden needs to go to those who exist extensively for that specific purpose. At the core of their problem, nothing's been changed. We can't get a police oversight committee staffed by civilians past the council. So how could you tell me things have changed? So it's a serious problem, because we've now gotten to the point where the cost to police this has vastly eclipsed the sales tax revenue that the restaurant overlay district was supposed to produce. So we're running at a net loss for the benefit of a handful of business owners. People are getting killed. There are people getting on the freeway, hundreds of drunk drivers getting on this freeway, putting lives at risk all over the Southern California area. So, you know, in my opinion, these bar owners got blood on their hands. And they're not engaging in responsible business practices because they're taking advantage of our law enforcement with our limited resources and putting the rest of this community in jeopardy by tying up all the law enforcement down here so they can't respond to residential burglaries and disturbance calls to the north. I'm the only candidate out there, I believe, that has the guts to tell it like it is, regardless of the fallout, politically, socially. This is about really serious problems that we face as a community. And the city council is the place where we need to start. It is where the power is at the local level to effect the change necessary to undo a lot of the things that are headed our way.